Why are Europeans so poor? Growing up, I always knew Southern Europe was poorer than Northern Europe, but only recently, through multiple personal experiences, did I realize that even Northern Europe might not be that well off when compared to America, Australia, or even Canada. My most recent experience with this was in a group interview for a front of house position in Melbourne. I met a German who had come on a working holiday visa and had been working as a barista for a few months. I asked him what he did in Germany, and he said he was a physiotherapist, but that he made more working as a barista in Australia than in a qualified position in Germany. I was very surprised by this, but as I recalled back to other experiences I had while in Europe, I think it has made more and more sense. I remember when I first went to Italy, I was in a very multicultural group with a French, a Swedish, a Mexican, and an American. Nerdy as I am, we ended up talking about money, salaries, and quality of life. I asked them how much they would need to be living comfortably in their country. The Mexican said around $1,000 a month. The French said around $2,000 a month. The Swedish said around $3,000 a month. The American naturally used a yearly figure, which was around $100,000 a year, and amounted to an income more than the other three combined. As I kept traveling, I found an interesting pattern. Most people traveling on a budget were European, whereas people with more flexible budgets were mostly Americans, Canadians, and Australians, as well as some well off Latinos. But contrary to what could be expected, those well off travelers didn't have fancy jobs in their home countries. Quite the contrary, there were waiters, nannies, kitchen assistants working at ski resorts and national parks, as well as some tradies. How could some 20-year-old working part time as a waiter from across the Atlantic afford to travel Europe more lavishly than a native European from some nearby country? It was not a one time thing either. Many of them did that every year, sometimes for months at a time. I met an Australian tradie making $50 an hour at the ripe old age of 22, an American waitress making $60,000 a year, working 4 days a week, and a student from Seattle who paid for his entire year of expenses, including his trip, just by working as a fisherman during the summer in Alaska. Compared to the Europeans I met, it was quite a shock. Every Italian I met had at least thought of moving abroad for more money. A decent salary for a basic job was between 1200 and 1500 euros net, whereas 2000 euros a month was considered a great income. I even met an Englishman who was really excited about a promotion he had just received. He seemed like he considered it a pretty good salary, but it turned out to be £35,000 a year, and he lived in London, mind you. And then came my experience in Australia. I ended up being hired by that company I mentioned, and it pays $35 an hour on weekdays, $42 an hour on weekends, and over $60 an hour on public holidays. That amounts to $5,600 a month for a normal work week schedule, something most people could only dream of in most countries in Europe. Now, I don't want to claim that there isn't some subjective wealth in Europe. The art, the history, the architecture are truly breathtaking. It's also clear that there are more free things there than anywhere else in the world. As an EU citizen under 25, I had so many perks and privileges I couldn't even count. But the difference in salaries is way too large, and the quality of life, at least in Australia, has been truly remarkable. Europe is clearly doing something wrong, and if they don't fix it, they might fall even more behind than they already are.